Picture a band of 30 people on the African savanna 40,000 years ago. Camp has been made in a shallow valley, sheltered from the wind. The fire is low. Most of them sleep. One person doesn't. He has been awake for hours, running through it. The lion tracks they crossed 3 miles back were fresher than the others thought. The creek they plan to cross tomorrow runs fast after rain, and the sky looked wrong at dusk. The group is carrying injured members and hasn't cached enough food if the journey runs long. Nobody asked him to think about any of this. He simply cannot stop. The camp had a name for him, probably. The worrier. The one who always sees the problem before it arrives and won't let it go. The one who lies awake when everyone else has the good sense to rest. The one who asks one more question after the decision already seems settled. We have a name for him too. Overthinker. Modern culture has a clear verdict on overthinkers. They're anxious, inefficient, trapped in their heads when they should be moving through the world. An entire industry has built itself around helping overthinkers stop. Apps, breathing exercises, meditation retreats, 100 books with variations of the same cover and the same instruction. Quiet the noise, get out of your own head. The man by the fire 40,000 years ago would have found all of this genuinely confusing. In the world he lived in, his brain was the reason the camp woke up in the morning. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. There is a version of this story that feels familiar. Anxiety is the threat detection system misfiring. An evolutionary leftover, like goosebumps or wisdom teeth, sending alerts about dangers that no longer exist. That account holds some truth. When anxiety becomes chronic and untethered from any real threat, it stops being useful, but it leaves a larger question. Anything that burned that much energy and cost that much sleep should have been selected out across 100,000 years of human evolution. To understand why it wasn't, you have to go back to a world where the alarm was rarely wrong. In 1994, developmental psychologist Jerome Kagan at Harvard University completed a study that had tracked 400 children from infancy into early adulthood. He had identified them, in their first months of life, as high-reactive. Infants who startled easily, cried more, showed intense physical responses to new stimuli. Most parents and pediatricians would have read those children as anxious, difficult, too much. Kagan called them something else, a different kind of nervous system. Over 2 decades, he found a population that noticed more. That processed experiences at a deeper level than their low-reactive peers. That made connections between potential threats others missed entirely. In environments of genuine danger, Kagan observed, this was not a disadvantage. It was the feature the group most needed. Anthropologist Frank Marlowe, who spent 14 months living with the Hadza people of northern Tanzania in 1999, documented something that maps onto Kagan's findings almost exactly. Within Hadza bands, certain individuals consistently registered details others didn't catch. Subtle shifts in animal movement. Changes in weather before a storm arrived, the kind of close, restless attention that anywhere else would be called excessive worry. The Hadza never called it anything. They depended on it. 2 years later, psychologist Elaine Aron published research that shifted how science understood the same population. After studying hundreds of people across multiple cultures, Aron found that roughly 15 to 20% of humans carry a more finely tuned nervous system. One that processes information more thoroughly, reacts more intensely to subtlety and threat, and recovers more slowly from overstimulation. She called it high sensitivity. What stopped her was the finding that followed. The same 15 to 20% appears in over 100 other animal species, fish, birds, insects. Across the animal kingdom, a consistent fraction of any population is wired to feel and process more than the rest. That fraction didn't persist by accident. It persisted because the group could not afford to lose it. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. In 2012, psychologist Adam Anderson and his colleagues at Cornell University ran a study that confirmed what Kagan and Aron had both pointed toward. They put participants with high anxiety into threat detection tasks and measured how fast and accurately those participants identified danger signals embedded in visual noise. The anxious participants didn't underperform. They outperformed the non-anxious group at exactly the skill the study was designed to measure. They caught the thing others missed. They caught it faster. Anderson described it plainly. The same neural architecture that makes a person vulnerable to anxiety also gives them a wider perceptual net. The amygdala, the brain region that fires first when a threat appears, runs hotter and faster in overthinkers. In a world where the lion was real and the tracks were fresh, that wasn't excess. It was the early warning system the whole camp depended on. The piece modern culture tends to skip is this. That early warning system was never designed to run in isolation. In the social structure of early human life, the overthinker didn't sit awake as a burden to the group. They sat awake as the group's instrument. The highly sensitive person processed the threat. The group made the decision. That division was not accidental. It was how the mechanism worked. And then something shifted. Not in the overthinker's brain, in the world around it. The threats that required a human sentinel watching through the night became rarer. The ones that replaced them were slower, easier to survive even if missed. Email threads, meeting agendas, social obligations. The same nervous system that had been the group's most essential asset kept running at full capacity, scanning for lions in a room full of spreadsheets. An instrument calibrated for a different century, still doing exactly what it was built to do. What the shift also stripped away was the social structure that made the overthinker's wiring bearable. In a band of 30 people, the sentinel's observations fed directly into group decisions. The worry had somewhere to go. It became a route change, a hunting strategy, a reason to move camp. In a city of millions, the same observations loop back into the same mind. No predator to track, no route to change. Just the alarm, still running, with nowhere to land. In 2012, psychiatrist Jeremy Copeland at the State University of New York found that people with generalized anxiety scored higher on verbal intelligence measures than their non-anxious counterparts. Copeland suggested the two were connected. The mental machinery that runs threat scenarios through the night runs rapid pattern recognition during the day. The same engine, different context. Creativity, anticipatory thinking, the ability to hold multiple outcomes in mind at once. These don't sit beside the anxiety, they come from the same source. The man by the fire who couldn't sleep was also the one who noticed the better hunting ground 3 valleys over. The one who remembered where the group had found water in a dry season 4 years back. The one who thought through the winter before winter arrived. He was the group's instrument. The one they needed and rarely named. Think about the pile of things you've worried about that never happened. The conversations rehearsed for weeks that resolved themselves. The disasters prepared for that didn't arrive. Modern productivity culture reads that pile as waste. Evidence the overthinking was pointless all along. That verdict usually lands hardest at night, when the day's work is done and the mind, with no new problem to process, turns back to the unresolved ones. The conversation that went wrong, the plan that might not hold, the thing you should have said differently. Each one held open, still flagged, still waiting for a resolution the daytime never quite delivered. The ancient sentinel had the same experience. The difference is that the camp knew why he was awake. That reading misses something significant. You don't know which of those prepared for disasters didn't happen because it was always going to be fine. And you don't know which didn't happen because you saw it early and moved before it could reach you. The overthinker never gets credit for the catastrophe that was avoided. They only get blamed for the sleep it cost. Back to the camp in the shallow valley. Morning comes. The overthinker mentions the creek. Someone listens. They take the longer route, the drier one, and everyone arrives. Nobody marks it as a close call because nobody experienced the alternative. The overthinker knows. He's already thinking about the next thing. The worry is not a malfunction. It is the watch, still running after 40,000 years, still doing the job it was given. Your ancestors carried this same instrument. It kept them fed, kept them moving, kept them alive in a world that would punish inattention with something far worse than a difficult week. The next time it won't let you sleep, you'll know what it is. The watch hasn't stopped working. Only the world it was built for has changed. And somewhere in a shallow valley, a man who couldn't rest stared into the dark and kept everyone safe. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.